All right. This chapter is called Gold for Chicken. Gold for Chicken. November 1977. 7 months have passed since I left Roleap. My fingers tremble as I button my new black shirt. I want to impress Ma with my new clothes. I wish I had a mirror, but there isn't one around. Since there are no hairbrushes or combs, I run my fingers through my greasy hair to smooth it out. Nervously, I walk out of the compound of the camp. In a couple of hours, I will be with Ma. The Yoon scare is over for now, and all is quiet again at the camp. Every few months, Met Bong allows all the children to have a day of rest. Many take the opportunity to visit their families. My breath quickens as my feet take me closer and closer to Roleap. Since Met Bong believes I am an orphan, I say I am visiting Chou, but instead will go see Ma. Ma does not know I am coming. She might not even be home. She told me not to come back. What if she doesn't want to see me or won't see me? Following the same path Chou and I took out of Roleap, I marched crisply toward the village. The surroundings seem to have changed very little since I last saw them. The red dirt trail winds and dips behind small foothills shaded by tall teak trees. When I left, I was a scared kid who cried and begged Ma to let me stay with her. Though I tried to be strong, I am weak. I was weak, and I did not know how I could fend for myself without Ma's protection. But I am no longer that scared child. My only fear now is that Ma will not be happy to see me. The memory of her hand swatting my behind to make me leave Roleap still burns in me. On today's journey, the trees look smaller and less haunted, and the path has an end, a destination. Finally, I see the village. It looks familiar, yet it's changed. The town square is deserted and quiet as I cross it to face the rows of huts. My lungs expand and contract rapidly as I remember Paul lifting me off the truck when we first arrived. I freeze his face in my mind, his warm eyes beckoning me to him, his arms holding me, protecting me while a base person spits at him. Inhaling deeply, I force myself closer to our hut. Like entering a ghost town, images of Kiev telling Pa she will survive, Kim's swollen cheeks, my hand reaching into the rice container, earthworms writhing in a bowl float before my eyes. The memories haunt and follow me like my shadow as I climb slowly up the steps to our hut. Ma is not there. My knees ache as I force my feet to move to the village's garden. There, I see them. Their backs are to me. Ma's squatting in the garden pulling out weeds. Her black pajama clothes are gray and faded. The noon sun burns down on her, but she keeps working. Stiffening my back, my eyes skip over to Geek, who is sitting under a tree watching Ma. She is still so little, so thin. Her hair is growing out again, but it is still very fine. She is almost 5 and looks much smaller than I did when I was that age. Ma says something to her and she laughs a small, frail laugh. My heart leaps. They have each other. They will always have each other. Ma! I call out loudly. Her back stiffens. Slowly she turns her head, her eyes squinting in the sun. It takes her a few seconds to recognize me, then she stands quickly and runs toward me. Tears fall from her eyes as she puts her hands over me, touching my head, my shoulders, my face, as if to make sure I am real. What are you doing here? What if you get caught? Ma, it's okay. I have a permission slip. She takes the slip and quickly reads it. It is only a piece of paper saying I can leave my camp and no mention of a designated location. All right, you stay here with Geek while I take this to the chief and ask for some time off. Before I can say anything, she's gone, leaving me standing there by myself, already missing her. I feel a gentle hand tug on my little finger, and I look to see Geek's face staring up at me, her eyes big and wet. She barely reaches my chest. Though she is 5, I always think of her as a baby. Maybe because she is weak and does not fight. I smile and reach my hand out to her, and together we walk to a shady tree and wait for Ma's return. Sitting under the tree, I hold on to Geek's hand. It is small in my palm, brown from the sun with black dirt burrows in her nails and the wrinkles around the knuckles. Her nails are brittle. I continue to stare at her hand, too afraid to look at her face and see my guilt in her eyes. I do not know what to say to her. She has never been a talkative child. She is the sweet natured one, and I am the cranky one. Leaning over, I put my arms around her tiny shoulders and rest my cheek gently on her head. She does not move or struggle, but allows me to hold her. Ma comes back with a bowl of rice and permission to take a few hours off. It's past lunch, but I got this for you from the chief. I take the bowl and we walk back to our hut. The chief gave you time off? Only a few hours. He is not a bad man. Ma, Geek still looks really sick, I say once we are sheltered in our hut. I know I'm very worried about her. I'm afraid she won't grow any more. We are given plenty of rice now, but we had all those periods of virtually no food. Pangs of guilt gnaw at my stomach. She needs meat, Ma continues. Last week I tried to trade a pair of my ruby earrings for a small chicken. Her eyes are sad as she recounts her story to me. It was dusk, and the sky turned red as it phased into night. When she and Geek finished their meal of rice and fish, Ma went to her secret hiding place under the small pile of clothes and took out one of Pa's old shirts. Reaching into the pocket, she took out a pair of ruby earrings. Sadness overcame her as she remembered Phnom Penh, a place long ago where she collected expensive antique jewelry. She shook her head as if to chase away the memory. No time for that now. She had to get going before it got too dark. She told Geek she would be back soon and quickly left. As she walked the 20 minutes to a nearby village, her body grew weak. Her joints ached with every step. She hated leaving Geek alone. She knows Geek cries for her whenever she leaves, even for only a few minutes. Her poor baby girl. Sang Im, she whispered to Pa. I'm so tired. I'm 39 and growing old so fast and so alone. Remember? We were to grow old together, sang Im. I'm too old to live like this. The memory of Pa brought tears to her eyes. She knows it's no use, but still she talks to him. Ma approached the village. Her heart raced, pumping the blood too quickly and making her dizzy. Act casual, she thought. They cannot suspect. If they knew what she was doing here, if she got caught, there would be big trouble. She shuddered when she thought of what they would do to her. Pa had traded inside the village with the base people for rice and other grains, but Ma wanted to trade for meat to feed Geek. The other women assured her the operation is completely discreet and safe. Slowly she walked into the village. No one stopped her to ask questions. If they did, she would tell them she was visiting a friend. A sigh of relief escaped her when she saw the house. In it lives a certain woman who works in the chicken farm. Other women in the village told Ma this woman had stolen chicken for them in exchange for jewelry. They described in detail the woman and her hut, so it was easy for Ma to pick it out. She walked over and called out, Good evening, comrade sister. It is your friend visiting you. The woman looked out of her hut, and though she did not recognize Ma, she invited her in. Once safely inside, Ma whispered to her, Comrade sister, I have come to ask for your help. I am told that you work in a chicken farm. I have a young daughter who is sick. She needs some meat. Please, comrade sister, help me. Ma unfolded her scarf and showed the woman the earrings. If you are able to help me, I will give the pair to you. Yes, yes, I can get you a small chicken, but I cannot do it now. You have to come back tomorrow. Come at the same time tomorrow. With that, she hurriedly sent Ma away. The next night Ma returned to the village with her earrings. Her steps were faster and lighter tonight, a smile spreading over her face as she thought of giving Geek the chicken to eat. Ma can't even remember the last time she and Geek had meat. Ma walked to the house and the woman invited her in. As she sat down across from the woman, Ma realized the woman was agitated and nervous. Then Ma heard the sound of footsteps behind her coming from a dark corner of the room. Her heart lurched and fear took over her body as she stood. What's going on? She managed to whisper to the woman. A man emerged from the shadows and blocked her escape. Please, comrade, I have a daughter. His hand came down hard across Ma's face. Ma's hand blocked her face. Her eyes blinked back tears. Give me the earrings, the man commanded. With shaking hands, Ma reached into her pockets, found the earrings, and put them in his open palm. Give me everything you have, he demanded her. Comrade, please forgive me, for I do not have any more. This is all I. Her voice trembled. He balled up his fist and punched her in the stomach. Ma doubled over and fell to her knees. His foot kicked her thighs, then many more kicks landed on her body. She was lying on the floor now, gasping in pain. Please, comrade, she begged, thinking of Geek. Have mercy. I have a young, sick daughter. His foot dug into her stomach. White spots flashed before her eyes. She felt as if her insides had been ripped out. She gasped for more breath as his hands pulled her to her feet. He dragged her to the door and pushed her out the steps. Don't come back ever, he yelled at her. Her knees buckled on the steps. She fell, her body slamming against the stairs, landing in the dirt. She picked herself up and ran. Back at Roleap, Ma lifts her shirt and shows me the bruises where the man beat her. The marks look raw, black and blue. They run across her protruding ribs. She lifts her skirt up and shows me the big red and purple patches covering her white thighs. Looking at her face, a rage rises up in me. The image of some stranger beating my mother brings to life such hate in me, and all for a chicken. Ma, I want to kill him, I tell her. Shh, don't talk crazy, she shushes me. Don't say it out loud or we will be in trouble. I am lucky to be alive at all. I feel sad Geek did not get her meat. Hearing her name, Geek walks over to Ma and sits on her lap. Ma smooths her hair and kisses the top of her head. I'll have to be more careful from now on, Ma continues. I worry about who will take care of Geek if something happens to me. Ma stares at Geek and sighs. Her biggest worry is that her sick child does not get what she needs. I look at Geek. She is quiet in Ma's arms. It strikes me then how she does not have much command over the language to complain about her hunger. How does a 5-year-old tell us about her stomach hurting, her heart aching for Pa, and her fading memories of Kiev? I know she hurts and feels pain. It is rare when she does not thrash and cry in her sleep. Her eyes look lost. I'm so very sorry, I say to her with my eyes. I'm sorry I am not good like the rest of the family. Chou visited us few weeks ago, Ma says. She was able to get permission slips to visit every other month now. She said the old Met Bong was taken away by soldiers and the new one is nice. She tells the new Met Bong she has a younger sister at this camp living with another family. Being a cook, she is able to sneak rice out of the kitchen and dry it in the sun. She brought us a feast the last time she came. I flinch with shame as Ma's voice trails off. I cannot listen any more. I did not bring Ma and Geek anything. I am tormented by the knowledge of how much my family is willing to sacrifice for each other. If Chow gets caught sneaking food, she will be severely punished, but she risks it. Kim stole corn for us and was brutally beaten. Ma was assaulted trying to get Geek a bit of chicken meat. I have done nothing. I look at Geek and choke back my sadness. She was so beautiful when we lived in Phnom Penh. She was everyone's favorite. Her big brown eyes were always so full of life. She had two of the world's rosiest, chubbiest cheeks, which no one could keep from touching. Now she has lost all her color. Her face is sunken and hollow. There is always sadness and hunger in her eyes. I stole her food, and now I'm letting her starve. A lot has happened since you left. Ma's voice brings me back. My eyes stay on Geek. She does not talk any more. She is so thin it is as if her body is eating itself up. Her skin is pale yellow, her teeth rotten or missing. Still, she is beautiful because she is good and pure. Looking at her makes me want to die inside. When the sun falls behind the hut, it is time for me to leave. The camp is a few hours' walk, and I need to reach it before dark. Ma and Geek walk to the road to see me off. With Geek hanging onto her leg, Ma takes me into her arms. She smells of sour body odor and dirt. My hands hang awkwardly to my side as I lift my face from her breast and push myself away. I'm not a baby, I mutter and try to smile. Ma nods her head, her eyes red and brimming with tears. Bending down, I lay my hand on Geek's head. Her hair is fine and soft. Gently, I smooth out the strands that stick up in the air. Then I quickly turn and walk away. They are both crying. I walk away not knowing when I will see them again. Though I long to be with them, being with them brings back too many memories of my family, of Kiev, of Paul. The next chapter is called The Last Gathering, May 1978. So she saw Ma and Geek in November of 77. So this is 6 months later. The period of plentiful food did not last long. Once again, our rations have been reduced and many people are becoming sick. My stomach and feet swell as my bones protrude everywhere else. In the morning, I find myself short of breath just walking to the rice fields. I have lost so much weight it feels as if my joints are rubbing against each other, making my body ache. In the rice paddy, my head throbs and it's difficult to focus on the task at hand. By midday, during lunchtime, the effort of pulling the leeches out of my toes requires more energy than I have in me. So tired, I allow the leeches to feed on me and only remove them at the end of the day. Each morning my face puffs out a little bit more, my cheeks rounder and my eyelids more swollen. Each day I awake feeling weaker and weaker, my arms, fingers, stomach, feet, and toes feeling heavier until I'm no longer able to train or work. Met bong, I wheeze out the words. May I have a permission slip to go to the infirmary? My stomach hurts very much. She sighs with impatience. You are so weak. You must learn to be strong. She shouts at me and walks away, leaving me standing in the sun with my head down. I curse myself for being small and weak. As I turn and walk back to the hut, she calls to me. Where are you going, you stupid girl? Bong puts a piece of paper in my hand. Go to the infirmary and recover, and then come back. I am taking you out of the dance troupe. I let out a sigh of relief and thank her. The infirmary is a few hours' walk from the camp. With permission slip in hand, I walk toward it. The sun climbs higher and higher above the trees, heating everything around me. I walk over to a shallow pond near the roadside and squat down. The mud oozes warm and soft between my toes, soothing my aching joints. I wade in deeper to where the water is clearer, but each time I move my feet, disturb the water, making it brown and hazy. Standing still until the residue settles to the bottom, I scoop up the water in my hand. It is warm and soothing to my throat, but tastes of rotten weeds. I move on until the water reaches my chest. Slowly I put my face in the water, my arms floating on the surface. My upper body floats easily in the water, pulling my feet up from the bottom. The water amplifies my heartbeat so that the thumps are much louder. The rhythm sounds normal, but my heart feels very hollow. Listening to my heartbeat, my mind wanders to Ma and Geek. April and New Year's are behind us, so now we are all 1 year older. Geek is 6 now. She is a year older than I was when the Khmer Rouge took over the country 3 years ago. It has been 6 months since I visited Roleep when Ma showed me her bruises. 9 months since I pulled my hand out of Chow's grasp. 12 months since I said goodbye to Kim. 17 months since the soldiers took Pa away. 21 months since Kiev. I stopped myself from counting more dates. It is no use remembering when I last saw them. It will not help bring them closer to me. Yet in my world where there are so many things I don't understand, counting dates is the only sane thing I know how to do. When I am cooled down, I raise my head and spot a small cotton field in the distance. I get out of the water and walk toward it. The cotton stands as tall as my chest, puffy, white, and soft like the clouds, but I can actually touch the cotton. I pick a ball and pull it open. In the middle of the puffy cloud there is a cluster of black round seeds like pepper. I have heard that they are safe to eat, but I hesitate momentarily before putting one in my mouth. I roll the seeds on my tongue. They are hard and have no taste. Tentatively, my teeth crack the shells and dig into the soft, oily meat. Slightly sweet, the seed quiets the noise in my stomach. I quickly pour the rest of the seeds onto my hand, scanning the field to check for guards. I shove the seeds in my mouth as fast as I can, then I collect a few more handfuls and put them in my pockets. By mid-morning, I arrive at the infirmary, an abandoned concrete warehouse with moldy, crumbling walls and open spaces for rooms. There is no electricity, so it is dark, except for the area that is illuminated by sunlight pouring in through the glassless windows. In the air hangs the unmistakable smell of rubbing alcohol and stale flesh. The 200 or so patients are lined up on straw mats or cots on the floor, their cries echoing off the cold stone walls. The bodies lie motionless, some bloated, others skeletal, all on the verge of death. Some are so thick they cannot get up to relieve themselves. There are not enough nurses to help, so they lie in their own messes. Kiev's face flashes before my eyes as I gasp for air, only to cough at the stench of death that floods into my nostrils. Kiev slept in cots similar to these, drenched in urine and waste. Some people come to this hospital hoping to be cured of their sickness, but many are dumped here because they are too weak to work and therefore of no use to Pol Pot. Those who can no longer work come here to die. A cold draft hits me and pricks my skin with tiny stings as I imagine Kiev staggering here alone to die among 1,000 strangers. In a makeshift hospital, on these yellow stained cots, many of these patients will die before the sun rises tomorrow. Forcing myself to focus on something else, I try to shake off the feelings of pity I have for these patients. I look intensely at my hand in the yellowish light. It looks stubby and waxy like 5 pale fat worms attached to the palm. When I move my fingers, they wriggle, and I momentarily envision them detaching and crawling away. My toes wriggle in the same way. I am jerked out of this vision by the moans of the sick. This must be how Kiev died, lonely and afraid. Am I to die in a sea of sick people I do not know? In my dreamlike state, I hear Ma's voice calling to me. Loung, where are you going? Come to us. I wake up, gulping air. Am I hearing voices? Am I going crazy? Ma? I whisper. My heart dances with hope, but I suppress it. Ma? I cry in anguish. Over here, I hear the voices of Chou, Geek, and Kim. I force my eyes to open wider against the heavy pull of my swollen lids, searching among the people for their voices. Far in the corner of the room, I see hands waving excitedly in the air. I stare at the faces of Ma, Geek, and Meng. Chou and Kim run toward me, smiling broadly. Everyone in our family but Choi is here. I cannot believe my eyes. I look into their beaming faces. Chou is barely able to suppress a laugh. Geek looks at me in confusion, and Ma is crying. Silly girl, Ma hollers at me. You almost walked past us. I'm so glad you are here. I was afraid to be here alone. This is the only infirmary in the area, Ma replies. She pats the ground next to her, gesturing for me to sit. My knees go weak and I fall into Ma's arms. My eyes wide open, I clutch her sleeves while the rest of my siblings look on awkwardly. We're all together now. We're all together. Her voice is muffled through my hair. Looking into the faces of my siblings, I no longer fear I will die alone. As Ma releases me from her grasp, Geek crawls over and seats herself between us. Ma tells me that she and Geek came here 5 days ago with stomach pains. Like me, all the siblings traveled separately and were lucky to find each other here. Ma says that Chow was the second to arrive, followed by Kim and Meng, who just arrived yesterday. Everyone is here but Choi. We spend our days in the infirmary, lazily talking to one another about many things, but never about Kiev or Pa. No one in the family has ever explicitly stated that we are not to bring them up in our conversations, yet we all know not to speak about them. Each of us keeps our memories of them private and safely locked in the boxes of our own heart. Instead, we spend the time telling Ma about our lives. Chow tells us she enjoys being one of the only two cooks at her camp. She says the other girl is nice. Being in charge of the food supply, she is able to steal a little of everything to bring to Ma. When the girls make her mad, she takes revenge by spitting in their food. At his boys' camp, Kim works day and night in the fields planting and harvesting rice. The setup of Kim's camp is identical to that of Chow's and mine, where all the children sleep together in a large hut. Every night he also has to attend the same propaganda meetings that Chow and I do. Meng tells us that before he fell sick, he and Choi were still loading bags of rice onto trucks that are rumored to be delivered to China. He reports that he still lives with Choi and Choi's wife, Lane. Despite our curiosity, Chow and I never ask Meng about her. 3 years living under the Khmer Rouge regime has taught us that some things are better left unsaid. Though we do not have to work, we are given a ration of rice and salt and sometimes fish. The amount of food is comparable to what I was given while I worked, though from our shiny faces and swollen bodies we realize that we are all suffering from similar symptoms: stomach ache, extreme exhaustion, diarrhea, and aching joints. After much discussion, we conclude that we are not so much sick as weak from starvation. First thing in the morning and after dinner, the nurses walk over and pour water into a smooth, polished coconut shell bowl. Then they put a small cube of white granulated material on my palm, telling me to eat it. I put the cube on my tongue and feel it dissolve. A smile spreads across my face when I realize it is sugar. Sugar for medicine. I plan to stay in the infirmary for as long as I can. Even with the daily ration of medicine, I am always hungry. It is hard for me to walk, but I must scavenge for food. I search the bushes for frogs, crickets, grasshoppers, or anything else that can be eaten. But I am a clumsy predator, moving slowly in my sickness. On my way back to the infirmary one afternoon, I see a rice ball left unguarded beside an old woman. My hand quickly grabs it and puts it in my pocket. My heart pounds rapidly, and I walk away as fast as I can before anyone notices. Once alone outside the compound, I am racked with guilt for what I have done. The fist-sized rice ball rests heavily in my pocket as the face of the old woman comes back to me. Her gray, oily hair clings to her skull, and her chest contracts and expands in shallow breaths beneath her black clothes. Her lids are half closed, exposing the whites of her eyes. Her helpers will return to find the rice missing, and they will have nothing more to give to her. Knowing she will die anyway, they may forget about her, but taking her food, I have helped kill her. But I cannot return the rice. I lift it to my lips as salty tears drip into my throat. The hard rice scrapes down in a dry lump, thus I put a marker on the old woman's grave. With heavy feet, I make my way back to my family. They are sitting quietly, happy to be together. Somberly, I sit next to Ma and scratch my head with both hands. My hair is in greasy knots and my head itches. Our clothes are tattered and have not been washed in weeks. The well water is reserved for the nurse's use, and the stream where we bathe is far away. Come, Ma Ma's hand reaches for my head and parts my hair. We will fix that. She reaches into her bag and takes out her special lice comb. She sits across from me and spreads her red and white scarf on the ground. She gently pushes my head down so I am looking at the scarf and drags the brown plastic comb with its micro teeth through my hair. My scalp hurts from the pull, but it is worth it as I see the six-legged bugs fall from my hair onto the scarf. They scurry all over the scarf trying to escape, but are met with our thumbnails crushing them to bits. Blood squirts from their bodies and they make small popping sounds. Chou and Geek laugh and join in the killing. One by one, Ma combs our hair and rids us of the lice. We spend our days this way, sitting around talking, laughing, and loving each other again. One night I dream about Kiev. She is beautiful, young, and exuberant. My dream starts peacefully. I am somewhere alone with her. We are talking, walking. I reach out to her but stop because her appearance is changing. In front of my eyes, as she continues to talk, she grows thinner and thinner. Her skin becomes yellowish, aged, and hangs loose from her bones, and then the skin on her face begins to melt, becoming transparent, exposing the outlines of her large eye sockets and the skeletal bones behind them. I want to run away, but I also want to stay. Her lips are still moving, and she says, I'm all right. I am not as you see me. I love her and want so much to be with her, to find out where she is now, so that I can meet her. I do not understand that she is saying what she is saying, and I scream myself awake. Determined to live, the next morning I force myself to walk the hospital grounds looking for food to steal to fill my stomach. I stay in the infirmary for as long as I can, and with the sugar cubes and food and rest from work, my body gradually grows stronger. After 1 week, the infirmary becomes overcrowded and the nurses force us to leave. First, they kick out Meng, then Kim, then me. I cry, whine, and lie, but in the end, I am forced to leave. Walking away, I break my farewell rule and look back to see Ma, Chow, and Geek crying and standing in the doorway. It was a mistake to turn around. My body aches to run back to them, to hold on to them. Expanding my lungs with air, I straighten my shoulders and march away firmly, wondering when I will see them again. And I don't have enough time to read the next